Hello and welcome to The Natural State. I'm your host, Suzanne Kane. In our previous episode, I talked extensively about recycling and how much the process has changed. However, today I'm going to bring things a little closer to home and talk about an incident that happened with the University of Arkansas and their recycling partner, Smurfit Kappa. In January of 2019, Smurfit Kappa began treating UA mixed recyclables like typical waste, following the restrictions China set on recycling in 2018. Approximately 4 tons of bottles and cans were treated as typical waste and sent to the landfill. When I first think of a landfill, I think of just mountains and mountains of trash that just sits and rots, wreaking havoc on the environment. In reality, landfills aren't mountains of trash, but essentially well-monitored holes in the ground that have been evolving to lessen their environmental impact. As an environmentalist, talking about landfills can sound pretty terrifying because the reality is that we are just dumping all of our trash into giant holes in the ground. However, landfills are where all of our non-recyclable trash and even some potential recyclables go. So it's important to be aware of how they impact the environment when materials can't get into the recycling system. Modern landfills start with a giant hole dug into the ground. A plastic liner is then placed down over a layer of compacted clay to ensure that the trash doesn't impact the groundwater. Leachate, a liquid that results from the decomposition of organic matter, as well as rain, other liquids, or chemicals, is collected through a series of pipes and moved away from the landfill to a wastewater treatment plant. The groundwater underneath a landfill is monitored to ensure that the trash doesn't contaminate it. Every day, the landfill receives waste and compacts it down in order to fit in as much trash as possible. After it has been compacted, the waste for the day is covered with either soil or tarps to prevent trash from flying out and odors from becoming overwhelming. Methane, another byproduct of decomposing waste, is captured through gas wells and either disposed of completely or used in ethanol as an energy source. Once a landfill, as its name implies, is completely filled up, it is covered with a similar layer of thick clay and plastic. And that then is covered with lots of dirt, which is often replanted and landscaped to be used for a variety of purposes. It essentially turns back into a normal field, but with a bunch of trash decomposing under it. That's a landfill, and it still isn't pretty, but it's a lot better than what it used to be. And it's legal. There are plenty of illegal landfills and dumping sites, many especially in Arkansas. These illegal dumping sites are the more dangerous versions of landfills. Nothing is controlled or monitored, and they are at a very high risk for fires due to the amount of methane they generate. One fire at an illegal dump in Bella Vista burned for a whole year because it wasn't managed properly. Residents suffered health issues, and although the fire was eventually put out, there are still many more illegal and uncontrolled dumping sites around Arkansas. There are some sites local governments are aware of, but there are plenty more that go under the radar, and they often originate in rural areas far from a good place to dispose of waste that can't go into normal trash or recycling. So, legal landfills are better now, but that doesn't mean we want more of them. Even though their environmental impact is reduced, it isn't non-existent. Doing what you can to reduce the waste that goes into these giant holes in the ground is important, because we don't want to be digging landfills for the next 20, 30, or even 50 years. Recycling especially, even as the broken system it is still keeping plenty of trash out of landfills. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, recycling prevents 60 million tons of garbage from going into the landfill. If we become discouraged from recycling, simply because we have to sort the materials ourselves or because not 100% of what we put in the blue bin gets recycled, then we're going to be adding even more garbage back into the landfill. Another reason to recycle? We're the natural state. We rely on our beautiful environment from that title, from Devil's Den Park to our various lakes and rivers and all of our other natural beauty. If we intend to keep the appearance of a natural state, we should be on the forefront of environmental action. Yes, we have landfills as well as enchanting landscapes, but landfills aren't permanent structures. If we don't want to have to continue finding space for landfills away from our natural attractions, we need to continue investing in our recycling programs and continue encouraging Arkansans to recycle. So it's not the end of the world if you can't instantly become zero waste or if you have to throw something in the trash. There are still environmental considerations in place even when your waste goes to the landfill. However, we need to recycle if we want to remain the natural state and not have to build new landfills for the rest of time. So just how can you become a better recycler? Tune in next week to find out how I fulfill my duties as my family's sustainability coordinator through my weekly trip to the Boys and Girls Club.